Okay, we're now recording.
Great.
So I think the amount of introduction you need, Sarah, is minimal. I think everyone on this call is familiar with Sefaria and with Sarah, and Sarah's kindly given us an hour to help us to prepare Divrei Torah, to start preparing Divrei Torah for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. And this is the third in our series so far. Recording will be kept. And with that, Sarah, I hand straight back over to you, and I will go back onto mute.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here again, to be able to speak with all of you. I'm really excited. As Gary mentioned, this is part of a series. And so the last time I introduced Sefaria and introduced a little bit of its capabilities, what it is, who we are as an organization. I also introduced myself, and in case you weren't on that call, I'll just say again, my name is Sarah Walkenfeld. I'm joining you today from Chicago, Illinois in America. Sadly cannot travel to where you are right now, but God willing, I hope one day to be able to do that. And the only thing that's really, I think, helpful to know about me in the context of these kinds of sessions is that my background is entirely in Jewish education. So I'm not a technology person at all. I don't know, I'm not particularly good at using computers really. And my children make fun of me all the time. I'm not that tech savvy, but I am a Jewish educator. I have been for many years. I'm really passionate about inviting everyone into the world of Jewish texts, and especially as it relates to our mission together today. I'm really excited about helping people not just learn the text, which a few of you, as we were logging on, were describing some of the learning that you do, but really encouraging you to take that learning that you do and share it with others. A big part of Sefaria's mission is bringing more voices into the conversation around Torah and encouraging people to share their Torah thoughts with others. So whether that means that you're sharing it with your family, your spouse, your friends, your study partner, your community, however widely or not you share that, again, a big part of Sefaria's mission is to make it really easy for people to take Torah and build with it and create new things. And that's what I'm hoping that we'll work on together today, is that creation of new Torah and the sharing of Torah, so that we know that there's so much in the sources of our tradition. There's so much there that we can find and discover, and that's exciting and interesting. Every year brings us new perspectives on even Mikorot, even stories that we've read for years and years and years. I think that might be even more true this year, as so much has changed in our world in the last year. Imagine last Rosh Hashanah, this Rosh Hashanah. I think we can all agree that there's been a lot of movement. And so I'm hoping that you all probably feel a lot of things, but hopefully also inspired to find the relevant messages for sharing, for learning this year. So I'm excited to work on that with you. And again, that's really my work, both for Sefaria and in life. I shared a sheet with you in the chat, which I will share again because I see that some more people have joined. So I'm going to share that sheet. It's just a source sheet that I made on Sefaria that outlines some of what we'll talk about today. You don't have to open it, but it has some useful links there. My understanding from at least the schmoozing we did at first is that most of you, maybe all of you, have some familiarity with Sefaria and have used it a little bit. Is that basically right? You can object either by turning on your camera and waving at me, or by indicating in the chat if you've never heard of Sefaria before. But I'm going to hope that most of you do know something about Sefaria. I included an introduction on the sheet, just a little bit about who we are and what we are. I think the most important thing to keep in mind for what we're going to speak about today, which is specifically how you can all build your own Divrei Torah on Sefaria. Two important components that I would remind you of. Number one, Sefaria is a nonprofit, and our mission is to release the texts to those who own them, which is all of us, right? All Jews have a stake in the Jewish library, and so we should really all be the ones to own the text. So if you're looking at our Beit Midrash, at our virtual library, and you're thinking, I wish they had this, or I'd rather see this text, or why can't they add this text, you should let us know. And I have on the sheet, and I'll also add into the chat the best email address to reach us. We really always welcome your feedback. But keep in mind that the answer to your question of why doesn't Sefaria have this text or this translation might be because it's under copyright and the publisher hasn't yet agreed to work with us. So you should let us know, but you should also let the publisher know that you'd love to see it on Sefaria, and be patient with us as we try to gather the resources to make that happen. So that's one important thing about Sefaria to keep in mind, that commitment to open source and really opening up Torah so that it belongs to everybody. The other thing to keep in mind during our work today is that Sefaria was founded really with a vision of giving everybody access to text. So not just that you should all own the text, but you should also feel like you have a way in. So I don't know you personally. A few people, I think Helen, you mentioned when we were first kind of signing on together, not always being so comfortable in the Hebrew sources. We really want Sefaria to be a place where you can be inside of Sefaria's library. You can be inside the Beit Midrash, even if you don't speak Hebrew or read it fluently. We actually are exploring branching out into other languages. So that's something else you can let us know about if you have a top choice for which language we should have on Sefaria next. But eventually we hope to have, we've explored a little bit about Spanish, French, German. I think those are the major ones that we're looking into. We really want everyone. Russian would be great as well. So we definitely want that to happen. And so you shouldn't feel like, oh, I don't know enough, or I'm not good enough with computers. This is a space where we want everyone to be welcome. And if there's something that you feel like Sefaria could do to make you feel more welcome, then you should let us know. Okay, without further ado, I will share my screen. Our adventure for today is to imagine, maybe it's not such a stretch for you to imagine, I hope it's not, imagine that you have decided to prepare a short Dvar Torah for either Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, or the season that is upon us more generally. Again, this could be something that you want to share with your shul community, something you want to share with your family, your friends. You can imagine whatever audience you like. And your mission for today is to think about, how are you going to find these resources and what's it going to look like when you share them? So hold that goal in your mind, and we're going to do two things together. First, we're going to talk about how to find sources, how to gather them on Sefaria, and then we'll talk about how to compile them on Sefaria, how to create a sheet. And after we do that, I'm going to give you all about 10 to 15 minutes to play with it, to work on it in small groups, grab a topic, grab an idea, and start putting those sources together. And then we'll reconvene, and I'll get to hear from you, hopefully what you chose, what you found, how the process went, any questions that you have, and we'll wrap up that way. I am going to pause periodically for questions. You're welcome to keep putting questions in the chat throughout, and I'll pause and read them periodically. But we're a small group, so I think that when we pause for questions, people can probably give voice to them if they want to unmute and do so. Okay, I am putting my sources in the chat one more time, and then I will share my screen. So here's the link to the source sheet in the chat. And now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I think you can see my screen now. So one of the main ways to find resources on Sefaria is by doing a topical search. And this is something, Gary, you mentioned looking up sources when you're in your chabura. We want to make it easy on Sefaria to find sources, but even when you don't specifically know what you're looking for. So my colleagues and I on Sefaria joke a lot, because of the work that we do, we have to get ahead of everything. So I finished my Rosh Hashanah Divrei Torah like in July, so that we could start sending them out this month to educators, but maybe you're not, maybe that's not your job in life. And so maybe you're just now starting to get your head into the Rosh Hashanah Elul space. So you might be thinking, okay, I want to prepare a Dvar Torah, but I'm not really sure what direction I want to take it. This is Sefaria's main library page. You can always find it by clicking on those 3 lines in the upper left-hand corner. I'm looking at it in Hebrew right now, but you can switch to looking at it in English. That's the Aleph A button at the top of the screen. When I click on more, it gives me Sefaria's full library. That's nice, but I'm not looking for a specific book right now. I'm just thinking about what am I going to teach this Rosh Hashanah? What am I interested in learning more about this Yom Kippur? What do I want to be thinking about as the Aseret Yemei Tshuva start? So as you scroll down on that page, you can see we have the option for topics, and this might be a good starting point. You can click on holidays, and I'll pick Rosh Hashanah, and there it is. This is Sefaria's topics page for Rosh Hashanah. You can see sources that relate to the holiday. You can also click to see sheets, which means materials prepared by members of the Sefaria community. Anyone can create and publish a sheet on Sefaria. So you can look through these topics and see what catches your fancy, what seems interesting, what's something that you might want to read. All of these resources, both the sources and the sheets, are there for you to learn, for you to look at, for you to read through and decide what direction do I want to take this. You can also see that in the sidebar here, we have related topics. So maybe you started really broad, Rosh Hashanah, but then you're like, oh, actually, I'm really interested in exploring the shofar. We're getting a lot of hits for shofar this year, by the way, I will say, as communities are contemplating how and when and how safe it is to blow shofar in enclosed spaces. So shofar is a trending topic this year, in case you were wondering. I think maybe it always would be around this time of year, but it's, I think, getting special interest. So you could decide, or you could decide that that judgment is the topic that you most want to explore. And again, click on that. It'll take you to that topic in Sefaria. Or tshuva, you want to explore repentance. So it gives you a little description of tshuva. And again, we have sheets on the topic as well as sources. You might already have in your mind something that you're interested in. You might already have something that you're thinking about as you remember past Chagim. So you might think to yourself, really I'm interested in the topic of fasting and understanding more about the fast. So you can see that Sefaria always has a search bar in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. And as I start to type in fasting, Sefaria gives me the option for #fasting. That's our topic symbol. And so I can click on that. And now I'm not looking generally at Rosh Hashanah or generally at Yom Kippur. I'm really looking at sources that relate specifically to the topic of the fast itself, or sheets that relate specifically to the topic of the fast itself. And if you're starting to get ideas for what you're most interested in researching, I hope you are, you can write those down for yourself. You can think about that. You can put it into the chat. You can play in a separate screen on Sefaria and see what happens when you type it in. We don't yet have topics pages for everything, but we're working on it. The topics pages are determined in large part by the input that users put into our site. So when enough people create source sheets on the topic of Tzom Gedalia, then we get a page for Tzom Gedalia. And so if we don't have a page for it yet, we just need more people to create those resources, and we'll have that page. We also imported data from an online database called, really an online bibliographic database called Aspaklaria. And so the sheets and the sources that are on, or the sources I should say that are on here, are drawn from a combination of our user data and Aspaklaria's data. And when I hover over the 3 dots, you can see this source is connected to Tzom Gedalia by sheets by Sefaria users, as opposed to by some other form of data. We try to be transparent about how we draw in these sources and how we find them. So again, I could decide what I'm really interested in this year is the topic of forgiveness. I have 2 options here. I'll click on forgiveness. And again, I see the sources, I see the sheets. This is something that we specifically built as a pathway into text for people who might feel like they don't have a lot of background, they don't have a lot of knowledge. They would see this page with all of our wonderful Sfarim, and they would say, I'm not really sure where to start. And I think that can especially happen when it comes to a holiday like Rosh Hashanah. It's not like Pesach, you could maybe open up the Haggadah. You have an actual central text. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, there's a lot you could open. There's a lot of text. And so you need a starting point, you need a way in, and that's what we've tried to build. Okay, I'm pausing for any questions that any of you might have. You can feel free to speak out or to put them into the chat. I don't hear anybody, so I will go on if no one has any questions.
Hi, Sarah.
Yeah.
Hi. If you're looking for a particular phrase in the Talmud, in the Gemara somewhere, so you can search and it will come up on the closest hits to it.
Yes. So you can also do you want to give me a phrase?
And if you're looking for anyone who eats on Erev Yom Kippur, it's as if they're fasting on Yom Kippur.
Interesting. Okay, let's try eats on Yom Kippur. We'll see because it's not an exact word search. So you can see, oops, see, it started to change it for me.
Eat on Erev Yom Kippur.
Eat on Erev. Yeah, I'm not sure it will be exact enough, but you could play with it. So you can see when I type, it gave me lots of options. If I don't select any of the options it gave me and I just click enter, so Sefaria will search for that phrase. And then you can scroll through and see, did you find the text or did you find the sheet? We also, when you click into this search bar, see this little icon that comes up here, we have a Hebrew keyboard, a Hebrew
It's
virtual
that second one here.
Yeah,
That's the one you're looking for.
got the answer.
Oh yes, I think
Yeah.
You may have found it, yes. But you can also type in Hebrew just by clicking here. So because I was worried, I mean, I guess you did find it that way. Sometimes, right, it's a question of translation or transliteration. And if you kind of have the phrase in your head, but you're not sure exactly how it was translated, you may do better typing even a few of the words in Hebrew. Yes, so you can do a word search, absolutely. Any other questions? Yeah. Great. Let's talk about another way of finding sources on Sefaria. This is the more obvious way. I won't spend, in some ways, so I won't spend as much time on it. But maybe you do have a text in mind. Maybe you do know that that the story of Akedat Yitzchak is in Genesis chapter 22. So you could open up that text. I went very quickly. I opened, but I'll show it again. I opened Tanakh. I opened the book of Genesis, and I used the table of contents up here, that little arrow, to select the right chapter number. I could also have cheated if, again, I know the exact reference, and I could type in Genesis 22, and Sefaria will open that for me as well. And again, you can play with the language however you want it to look. The Aleph A button always shows up on sheets, on text, so you can decide both the language as well as the layout of the language, stacked or side by side, however you want it to appear. Now that I'm in this text, I can click on any text, and in that sidebar experience, I can see all of the mefarshim, all the commentaries. Anytime it's quoted by the Mishnah, the Talmud, Midrash, Halacha, all of these references here are going to in some way relate to this pasuk. And it may be that I didn't actually know exactly where to start, but that I did that topical search. So I searched for repentance up here at the top and found a text that looked interesting, like this one from Sefer Dvarim, and I clicked on it to see what else is related. So this could be a way in. Not every text, as I mentioned earlier, appears in English. So if that's what you're looking for, you want to look for that little EN symbol on the side, but you can explore. And as you open resources, you can, of course, then also open the text to which that text is connected. So I can open, let's see, this text appears in a Hasidic text, and it's probably not going to be in English though, but I can click on open to open that text, and then click on that to get the sidebar and see if there are other texts and more text and more text. So that's another exploratory path that you can take, making your way through Sefaria. And you can use it again to find sources that you might want to include. The other thing to keep in mind is that Sefaria has really worked to include as much as possible to bring in more and more voices. Again, we're limited by copyright. So it might be that you have a great book. I'm in my husband's office at our shul right now, and if I angle, well, you can see the bookcase behind me, and then there's another bookcase, right? I have all these books of great modern essays on the Yamim Noraim, on the high holidays. A lot of that material is not on Sefaria, but what you can find, again, copyright issues, but what you can find also in the sidebar is, again, sheets. So this is going to be materials that people have created in modern times, which may include things from sources that Sefaria does not have in our library. So reading Rav Kook on Tshuva, we actually don't have Orot HaTshuva yet on Sefaria. So this would be a great source sheet for me to look at if I want to see the connection between this pasuk and what Rav Kook has to say on the issue of Tshuva. And I can click to open it and go through, and you can see there's images in the source sheet. There's a lot here for me to work with. So that's another way of finding materials that interest you. These sheets are on Sefaria because they're a gift to our community. Anyone can access them, anyone can use them. You're not stealing them any more than you're stealing Sefer Dvarim by teaching it to somebody else. You're sharing it, and you're being Marbitz Torah, you're encouraging the study of Torah. That's what these sources are really there for. And the other resource that I want to point you to in the sidebar when you're thinking about what can I gather, how can I put together my thoughts, is this feature. Again, just scrolling down underneath the commentary and the tools and the sheets, you can see web pages. These are websites, other websites on the internet that have Torah essays and draw from Sefaria for their citations. So for example, Rabbi Sachs has many, many important resources on his website. And every time his website quotes a source that's on Sefaria, it links to that source in Sefaria, and we link back to it. So if you're wondering, right, what has Rabbi Sachs written specifically on this pasuk, specifically on this parsha, you can find that answer in this sidebar, and you'll be able to click and just open the resource, and it's there. We do hope to add more web pages to this list. So again, you can be our ambassadors. If there's a great Torah website that we don't have here, you can let them know. It's pretty easy for them to embed it in their code, and we'd love to have more resources showing up in this sidebar. Any questions about any of that?
The Rabbi Sachs information, I think you can set an alert so when anything is added, you get an email with a link to it, to any new articles.
That may be. Great. So now that you have ways to find all these resources, the question is, what do you do with them? I'm not going to give you the fullest possible answer. There's a lot to play with here. When I go back to the sheet that I created that I shared with you, you can see I did give you a Sefaria source sheet how-to tutorial linked on this sheet. So you can always check into that if there's anything you're not sure about or anything more that you want to do. Here's the bottom line. When you create a source sheet on Sefaria, you're creating your own web page, which maybe we should have called this feature web pages on Sefaria, but we didn't because we were worried that people like me would say, what do you mean a web page? I can't create a web page. I'm a teacher. I create handouts, I create source sheets, I create resources. I create shiurim, I don't create web pages. So we called them source sheets. Maybe that was a mistake because now I get emails from people saying things like, how do I attach my source sheet to my email? Or, how come there's a video on my source sheet? And the answer is because it's a web page, and anything you can do on a web page, you can do with a sheet on Sefaria. So that's important. I'm just looking at the questions. A question about quality control on other people's sheets. No, we don't have quality control on other people's sheets because we do have a few things that we watch for. God forbid we should have anti-Semitic activity. Whatever, it hasn't happened yet. But when I get source sheets, when I get emails saying that people have found source sheets that are terrible, that is always so far for one of two reasons. And I bet if you thought about it, you could imagine what the two reasons are. The number one reason that people think source sheets are terrible is because they disagree with them. So it's true. If you think one thing and I think another thing, then my sheet is by definition terrible. We want to encourage multiple interpretations and multiple opinions, so we don't censor those. The other reason that I sometimes get emails saying that sheets are terrible is because they're created either for a different audience. So for example, I've made a sheet to teach second graders, but you teach adults, then you think my sheet is terrible because it seems way too basic, or the opposite. Or the sheet was created by a child. We encourage that, we allow that. We want even young people to find their voices as creators of Torah and sharers of Torah. And so that's another reason that I sometimes get emails. And then there's also a question about a quote from a source not on Sefaria on a sheet will be under copyright. Yes, it could be under copyright, and then it falls under the same laws as if you were to take that quote, put it on a sheet, make copies of it, and distribute it in your shul, which is to say, I have no idea actually what that looks like in England. In America, and I believe in Israel as well, there's sort of a fair use policy. So you can't take an entire book and put it on your source sheet and give it out to your shul. And you also can't take an entire book and put it on your source sheet and distribute it on Sefaria, but you can take a paragraph or a quotation. And so generally speaking, those things are fine. Okay, I'm going to show you sheets on Sefaria. For this part, you are going to need to be logged in if you want to play along with what I'm doing. I believe in the announcement for this class, there were instructions sent out for how to log in. So you can refer to those if need be, and there's also instructions linked on the sheet that I shared with you today. I am logged in, and you can tell because there's a little icon here in the upper right-hand corner. If I weren't logged in, it would give me two options, sign up or log in. Sign up is if you've never created an account, and log in is if you have an account. When you click on that little icon, you can see your account. This is actually where everything that has to do with your specific space on Sefaria can be found, including you can click to create a new sheet. And again, it's called a sheet. It's really just a web page. So I can call this sheet, I'm double clicking into the title, I can call it My Dvar Torah. You are going to want to click save, because if you don't click on the save button in the upper right-hand corner, then it won't save. And then you can see that you have all these options for what to add to a source sheet. You can add a source, which is anything from within our library. This is going to work best if you know exactly what you want to add. So let's say, right, the question from before, you found that line that you were wondering about, that, you know, how you know, Emmanuel, I think that was you, right, that it's good to eat on Erev Yom Kippur, right? That's considered like you fasted. So you found that and you have the exact citation. You could type it in here. When I was looking at my Akedat Yitzchak reference, right? So I could type in Genesis 22 and I click add source, and now it's on my sheet. That's one way to do it. You can also browse sources. So you can browse through the library and then I'm just randomly selecting at this point, but just click and drag to select the section that you want to add and click OK. You can do that as well. You can also add a text, which is relevant to the question about copyright, actually. You can add anything else that is digital, anything you can type, anything you can copy and paste, anything that you can grab digitally, you can add either in Hebrew or in English. Just copy and paste or type into these boxes. You can add media, which is audio, video, and image. Here's a good workaround. If you have a page from a book that you want to add, take a picture of it with your phone and upload it to the sheet, and you've got it in. That's kind of a quick and dirty way to do it. Or you can add a comment, which is just your thoughts, your questions, whatever it is you want to tell people, your reflections, what you want to tell people about this source, and then click add to sheet. So it's really a full range of kinds of sources, kinds of media and materials that you can add, not just text from within our library. It's also, in some cases, easier to add directly from the text that you're looking at. So in my sources, let's see, I will search for Yom Kippur this time, which I haven't searched for yet, and I get hashtag Yom Kippur. So I'll pick not the first source, I'll pick the Mishnah in Ta'anit. I click to open that source, and I'm reading it, and I decide this is what I want my Dvar Torah to be about. This would be great to have on my source sheet. So the source, and one of the options in the sidebar is sheets. Sefaria will let you add the source to any sheet that you've already created. You can use that little drop-down menu to pick any source, select any source sheet that you've already created, or way down at the bottom here, you can create a new sheet. Right? I'm so inspired by this Mishnah that I've decided to create a sheet called Mishnah Ta'anit and click create. And Sefaria will then create that sheet and give you the option to add the source to your sheet. So sometimes it's easier if you don't know the exact citation, if you haven't already found that exact citation on Sefaria, you might do better just to be in that reader experience in the library. And every time you find something, just grab it and stick it on a sheet. By the way, this is now what I do all the time when I learn. Anytime I find something that I think I want to hold on to, if I know, I might want to use it when I teach about this topic, so I grab it, I stick it on a sheet, and I can always find it later. And the last thing that I'll say is that your sheets can be tagged. So when I go into my account on Sefaria, I have a lot of sheets here, but you can see, hopefully, let's see, this is a good example. See the gray words here: Etrog, Lulav, Arba Minim, Sukkot, holidays, 4 species. This is a sheet that we've made. I think my colleague made this one, and we've put in tags. And that way, when I make the sheet public, you'll all be able to find it by searching for the word etrog. This sheet will then come up on our etrog page. But maybe more importantly, I'll be able to find it again when I'm thinking to myself, have I ever created resources on the topic of lulav? I can go into my account and search here and type in lulav. And I have 2 sheets about lulav, and they both come up, and tagging really helps with that. So when you're in the sheet, I have to get into the edit mode by clicking on the little down arrow, and I click edit sheet. So I have the option in the file menu to click on tags and add tags. And that's going to be really important, again, for making them searchable, also for my own sanity later on, so that I can find the sheet that I've actually created. Any questions? I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second so I can see you all. Helen, I think
yeah. Can you make your sheet private? So, if you're doing something, you don't want the whole world to have to read it because there might be a load of rubbish or something. Does it have to be public, or you got the option to keep it private?
It does not have to be public. Sheets actually default to being private, so they're yours until you choose to share them.
And then how do you make it public? By clicking on that share button?
Yeah, click on that share button. Private just means that anyone with the link can see it. So it could be private, meaning you created it and you then decide, I'd like to share this Dvar Torah with my family. So you can put it in your family WhatsApp group or email it out to your friends and family, and they'll be able to see it even though you haven't made it public on Sefaria. If you want to make it public, click on that blue share button that shows up after you save your sheet, and it gives you the option to make it findable on Sefaria.
Okay, and I also noticed when you were composing a sheet, there were a lot of editing commands on the top. So you can do things like draw a border around something or do a different color font or whatever. Is it like Word, those options to sort of play around with?
Yep, it's a lot like Word or Google Docs. So that part I think should be pretty intuitive if you use those tools. Right? If you click into a text, it gives you the option to edit it. Yeah. We're in the process of transitioning our editor to a new format. So you'll play with it. You'll see what shows up well and what doesn't. We probably won't have all the functionality of a Google Doc. We want to kind of simplify, but definitely colors and you can go in and actually edit the text. So you can decide, I put in 3 psukim. I actually can, I don't really need people to read that middle one. So, I'll kind of, move that around or something like that.
Yeah.
So you can play with it.
Do people use Sefaria for younger children to make worksheets and that type of thing?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, the youngest students we know of who use Sefaria on a sustained basis are in 2nd grade. So around 7, 8 years old. You have to be able to read to be an effective Sefaria user. So we do know of teachers of younger students. I've worked with a number of teachers of younger students to make resources, but in terms of students being able to navigate Sefaria, that usually starts around 2nd grade. From 2nd grade and up, we really have a lot of schools in North America that are, also some in South America, that are using Sefaria for students to navigate texts and use resources and also create resources.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. So I want to invite you now to, again, think of a topic, think of something that you want to research or try to create. It can be something that you're going to share, again, relevant to the question of what's private and what's public. Maybe you're only going to share it with a few people. Maybe it's just for yourself, for your own learning, for your own process. Maybe it's for your entire shul community. You can decide how you want to imagine this project. And I put instructions on the sheet that I shared with you. I'm asking you to, and of course you can play with it however you want, but the idea is to find at least one source that you want to share with others during the Chagim. So whether it's Rosh Hashanah, whether it's Yom Kippur, whatever you want, and put this source onto a Sefaria sheet, and then add one other piece, a question, a thought, a reflection, a comment. As a bonus, you could try adding one other source, either from within Sefaria or something you found externally. And then when we come back together, I'll ask if you're willing to share what you created by grabbing the website name, by grabbing the URL, and sharing it to the group. And I'll show you how to do that. Pull this up again. I'll show you exactly how to do that because I do get this question a lot. So in America, the example that I use is Amazon because everybody here uses Amazon. I don't know if that works as well in other countries, but anytime you would want to share a website with someone, all you have to do is share the URL. So this is my source sheet that I made for you today. And I'm running Chrome right now, but this would work with any browser. As long as you can click to see what website you're on. Every website has what's called a URL. It just tells you how to navigate to the website. And so I'm just going to copy this link. I used Command C. It might be Control C, or you can use an edit copy command, whatever works for you. You just need to be able to click and highlight it and copy. And then this link is something you can share out any way that you share things digitally. So you can text it to someone, you can email it to someone, you can WhatsApp it to someone, you can put it on a website for other people to click into, you can put it in the Zoom chat. I think I ran out of ways of sharing things. Whatever you can add in if I forgot anything. Anything like that, you can then share it out. So that's how I shared this sheet with you, which I'll do one more time. I'll put it in the chat for everyone to see once more in case you missed it before, so that you have that during the breakout rooms. And you can also grab any text, right? Any URL will work. So even here when I'm in Mishnah Ta'anit, that also has a URL that I can share. That's always how you share links from Sefaria or from any other website. So you don't need, again, you don't need to send it as an attachment. You don't need to do anything special with it. You can just grab the URL and put it in. Great. Any last questions before we get started? Okay, I'm going to give everybody 10 minutes. I am going to, let's see.
There are 10 of us,
rooms
apart from yourself, Sarah.
Great. But I'm not a participant, right? So it wants me to assign, let's do 9 participants into 3 rooms. And I'm going to do it automatically, so it's a mystery who you'll wind up with. So take about 10 minutes, and then we will come back together. And again, even if it's a work in progress, like Helen said, and you wouldn't want to share it publicly on Sefaria, I hope you'll be willing to share with us a little bit about either what you created or your process, questions that came up. And we'll talk about it for a few minutes when we get back together. Okay, here we go. Create breakout rooms. You might just have to click to accept the invitation for the breakout room. And here we go. You should all be able to join your breakout room now. Okay, I think a few people still need to click to join the breakout room. So you should see an invitation that popped up. So you can click on it to join your breakout room.
I just swapped computers so that I can speak, so I don't have a computer room.
Okay, so hopefully you can click to join the breakout room.
I don't have a click to join.
Let's see. I think. Let's see, what happens if I move you to.
Actually, can I talk to you anyway? Because I've got a few questions.
Sure.
I open up my Safari on my computer and it says NN. Does that mean that's Naomi Newman? Does that mean that I have logged in properly?
It says, and you mean in the corner? Yes, that means you're logged in.
So I don't get any of the things that you say come on the side. Nothing comes up. I don't really know how to. It doesn't. All the things you say don't seem to come up on my computer.
Do you see Sefaria?
I see Safari in the middle. I see NN in a circle on the right hand side, and
Did you
naught
click on
next to
anything?
it. And when I'm, for instance, when I'm putting up Rosh Hashanah, so I've got man's action, whatever, related, idleness, arousal, life making, whatever. But I don't have anything after that of what to do with it.
Right, because you're not in Sheets yet. So you need to open up a text.
How do I do that?
Click on the text title to open it.
Sorry, I don't know what you mean by click on the text.
Here, I'll share my screen. Oh. So you have to actually open something, or you can't. You're just looking at the main screen. Let's see if I can share my screen again. Okay. Share screen.
I'm in, let's say, Deuteronomy.
You're what?
I'm into Deuteronomy.
Great. So you should see a text, and when you click on the text, just click on anywhere on the text, you'll get the sidebar.
No. Sources. I've got sources and I've got sheets.
Right. You didn't open a text yet. You have to open the text. So if you searched, I don't know what you searched for, but if you searched Rosh Hashanah.
Well, let me go back right from the beginning.
Right.
Okay. And it says search for a text or commentator.
Wait. So you type something into the search bar at the top. Right?
So I'm going to put Rosh Hashanah.
Right.
It says add a source or browse sources. So I'm somewhere else now?
Because now you're on the sheets.
Okay. As you can see, I'm very compromised by anything that has to be on a
Hang on a
computer.
second. Just go to sefaria.org.
Okay, I'm going to start again. I'm leaving Sefaria.
Okay, great. But now go back to Sefaria.
Okay. Sefaria.
Great. Are you still logged in? Do you see your initials in the right-hand corner?
Yeah, it always comes up with NN. It comes automatically. Great.
Do you see the search bar in the upper left-hand corner?
Yeah.
Great. Type in Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Great. See where it says hashtag Rosh Hashanah?
Yeah.
Click on that.
Yeah, I did that.
Great. The first source there is Leviticus.
Yeah.
Hover over the words Leviticus 23.
Yeah.
See how there's an underline under it?
Yeah.
Click.
Yeah.
Great. Now you're in the text.
Okay.
Now you can click on any piece of that text and you'll get the sidebar.
Okay. And then what?
Do you see the sidebar now?
Yeah.
Great. So scroll down to Sheets.
Okay.
And now Sefaria will give you the option to add that source to a sheet by creating a new sheet.
So where does it say create a new sheet? It says add to sheet, but it doesn't see create. Where does it create?
So click on add to sheet.
Okay. Yep, and it says go to my sheets.
Good. So did you add it to a sheet?
I have no idea.
So click add to sheets to see.
Create source sheets.
Yep. It's going to ask you to title it.
It says, so I'll press on create source sheet.
So you have to type in a title.
And it says search for text or commentator. So I'm back to square one. I haven't added it.
You're in this view, right? Now you're back in the sheet view.
It says new source sheet on it.
Yes. So because you went to creating a new source sheet. So give your source sheet a title.
Source sheet from where?
It's your source sheet.
Where do I put that new title?
So double click where it says new source sheet and type in your title.
Okay, and so I'll make it Rosh Hashanah.
Great. And then click save. You'll be able to see the save button. It's a blue button on the right hand side. Great.
Okay.
Now you have a source sheet. So now because you have it, you can add any of these things. So you can add a source if you can type in the exact citation, or you can add anything else from among these choices, text, media, or comment. But source, again, you would just type in the citation if you know it. If you don't know it, you can go back to that text view. So you can open a new window, open a text in Sefaria. And again, when you click on it.
That's gone too fast for me. Sorry. But you've said, so I don't know it's a text. So now what do I do?
So maybe open up another, do you know how to open another window?
No.
Okay, so never mind. So just click, you see the 3 lines in the upper left-hand corner?
Yep.
Great, so click there.
Yep.
And now you've got Sefaria's library again.
Okay.
You can go ahead and open anything you want, or do another search using the search bar and find another text.
Okay, so we go back to Rosh Hashanah. I'm going to type in Rosh Hashanah again.
Okay.
And I'm going to do on the hashtag Rosh Hashanah. And I'm going to turn on to Leviticus. And then what happens? I press on Leviticus.
So again, you have to open up the text by clicking on the text title.
Yeah.
And then use the sidebar. Again, click to open the sidebar. And you're going to keep doing add to sheets by...
I don't know what you mean by sidebar. Okay. I've now pressed and I've got, it says Daber Ben Israel, it's Pasuk 24 of Leviticus. And then there's a side sheet. And how am I going to get back to my original source sheet?
You don't worry about it yet. You have to open the text. So click on the title of the text. So if it's a pasuk from Vayikra or whatever, click on, again, hover over where it says.
So Leviticus chapter 23.
Great. So that's what you did before, but that's fine. Click on it.
Yeah.
Now the text opens fully, right?
Well, the text opened fully before.
No, you were only seeing a small piece of it.
Okay. All right. So now it's 23, and I've got to go and find the pasuk where it says, whatever pasuk it was.
Great. So find whichever pasuk you want, and click on it to open the sidebar.
Okay.
You'll see Mefarshim, right? You'll see commentaries and everything under that. And scroll down to where it says sheets.
Okay. I've just gone to, it doesn't matter what, I've gone to the Yom Kippur. I clicked on it. And it says resources.
Right.
I'm just not following with you. It's too many, you're going too many steps fast for me. I'm like.
So here, watch my screen for a second. Let me share my screen. Okay. So you did a search. Can you see my screen?
I'm going back to where you are. I'm doing a search, yeah. Okay,
so see the search?
Yeah.
Great. So you don't have any text open right now.
Well, I'm doing exactly what you've just done. I'm doing one hashtag, and I've got the same as you.
Great. So this is not a text. This is a list of texts.
Okay.
It's a search, but you can see as
so let's just go from the top one. Okay. It doesn't matter what it is. Let's go to the top one.
Right, but I just want you to see that right now you haven't opened any Sfarim.
So I understand that. So I go to the top one, and I'm going to open the top one. So I press on 2323.
Right. So now you have the full text, right?
Okay. I want it in Hebrew and English, so I go both. All right, I've got that.
Great.
I
Now
want
just
it
click.
side by side. Okay. I've got the same as you. Yeah.
So now just click on any line in the text, any
Okay,
passage you're interested in.
So I'm just going to set the first line of the sentence. And it's the second one. Okay.
Okay, so now you see the sidebar where it says commentary.
Yeah.
Great. Scroll down
Yeah.
until you see where it says sheets.
Yeah.
And click on sheets.
Yeah.
And now it'll give you the option to add it to your sheet, right? It should say the title of your
add to sheets.
Exactly. Click on add to sheet.
Yeah.
Great. Now it's added to your sheet. You can go look at your sheet if you want. You can choose go to sheet, or you can just keep going because it's on your sheet if you don't need to
So
go back.
I've gone back to my sheet.
Great.
And interestingly, it's done it in only English, not in Hebrew and English, even though I put
that's how you're viewing the sheet. So you just need to change the sheet view.
Okay.
So just go to the Aleph A button.
I've done that. Okay, fine. I can change that. I manage. Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. And now I want a commentary on that. So I can just press Rashi.
Mm-hmm.
And I can add that to the sheet.
Yep.
Okay. And then if I want to view it,
great. I'm going to call everybody back.
Lovely, thank you.
Sure.
Can you hear me, Sarah?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I joined late. Hi. I joined late, Esther. I had signed up. But can I say, will you be doing this again? Because I only came in about 7 minutes ago.
I don't know, but the whole thing is recorded. So you'll be able to find the recording.
Where would I be able to do that?
When we get back together in the group, you can ask that question. I believe that Gary's going to share it out.
Amazing. Thank you.
Maybe on the Shul website. That part I'm not totally sure about. Okay, the breakout rooms are going to close. Everybody's going to come back in. Yeah, that should all be findable. And I'll share the link to the source sheet in the chat again so that hopefully you can see it. Let's see. Great, everyone's coming back in. Whoops. We'll message this out. We'll gather everyone together from the breakout rooms. They're going to close in about 10 seconds. So we'll have everybody back together. Okay, and here we are. Welcome back, everyone. Great. So I hope everybody made it into some kind of breakout room. I had to do a little re-engineering, but hopefully everybody got to see somebody else and made it in there. And in my group, I just did some more explaining. But I'd love to hear from anyone who'd like to share questions that you had, resources that you found. You can feel free to grab that URL and put it into the chat, just to me or to the group. But I'd really love to hear from people how that went, and if you have any questions, thoughts, reflections, etc.
Yes, Sarah, our issue was that when we went into texts, how to easily get back to add the text into our sheet.
How to easily get back to add the text into your sheet.
And how to find our sheet itself that we were in the middle of editing.
Okay, great. I will show both of those things. Does anyone else have a question before I share my screen again?
There was a question on whether it's possible to display Rashi in Rashi script.
No, I don't think so.
And is there like a find and replace command in the editing mode?
There is not, but you can just with one click sub out Shemot.
So not so much for Hashem's name, but let's say you wanted to change, I don't know, a cat to a dog or something. is like in English? Is there any?
Not inside the editor.
Okay, fine.
Okay, any other questions? Nobody's shared any resources yet, but okay, I will share my screen for a minute and show you the answers to those questions. And then maybe someone else will want to share. So here we go. Okay, I'm going to answer them in the opposite order. The easiest one to answer is where to find your sheet. You can always find your sheet by going back to your account. Your account, again, is clicking on that icon. Maybe it's your initials, or in my case, it's a little, it's the Sefaria image because I'm logged into the Sefaria account. Whatever that is, when you click on it, you'll see your sheets. So that's the easiest way to find it. If you're like me and you have tons of sheets, then again, the best way is to search. So I specifically want my source sheets on Rosh Hashanah, so I'm going to have to search Rosh Hashanah. But if this was your first source sheet ever on Sefaria, then it would just show up right away when you go to your sheets. So that's the answer to how to find your sheet. In terms of the first question about kind of getting back or getting between the sources, I will show you what I think you asked, and then you'll tell me if I got it right. Naomi and I were working on it as well. When you search Rosh Hashanah on Sefaria, oops, it didn't know I wanted the topic, 1 second. This is not a text that you're looking at right now. This is a list of texts. So you're just scrolling through and looking at all the different texts and all the different sheets that are available. If you want to add something to your sheet, you'll have to open it up in full. So I can click on, right, and you can see because once I hover over the relevant part, it becomes a little, my cursor becomes a little hand. Hopefully you guys can see that. So when I'm just on the text, it's just a cursor. When I hover over the title, it's a little hand and it shows the underline, and I can click there, and now I'm in the text itself. And now I click on the text to open the sidebar, and you select Sheets. And now I can actually add this to any sheet that I've ever created. I'm using the little down arrow. I could add it even to a source sheet that I created last year for Rosh Hashanah because I found a great new source. Or if you don't want to add it to any sheet that you've already created, it also gives you the option to add a new sheet, like my sheet this year, and click Create. And now it says I have this sheet. Now I can click the blue button that says Add to Sheet. And when I then, you could go right to your sheets from here. There's a button for that. Or again, you can click on that icon. When I go back to my account now, I'm going to see, if my internet ever catches up with me, I'm going to see my source sheets, and I'll be able to go and click my sheet this year, and the source is added to it. Did that answer the question?
And then how do you get to the edit menu again from this position?
Just click on this little down arrow right here and click
an edit sheet. Yeah. And then if you want to type in a question, a piece of text or something, so you just go to insert, what's it, insert text or format text or something.
You can use the insert menu, or you can just, with this plus button, click on comment or text or whatever you want.
Yeah. Thanks.
Great. Other questions or comments or things you want to share, or anybody who wants to put a sheet in the chat box? No, everybody's good. So you would want to play with this tool a little bit to think about, again, exactly what you want to put in here and how to get it there. If you had known, or if you do know, the exact citation of a source that you want, you can also type it in. So if that's easier for you, you can always do that. So for example, when I did this search for, this time I'll search Yom Kippur, just to have something different, and I select hashtag Yom Kippur, Sefaria will give you the exact citation. So I could just say, well, I want Mishnah Ta'anit 4.8, and then I just have multiple tabs open right now. I can go back to the tab for my source sheet and click into source and type in, Mishnah Ta'anit. It comes up as an option, and I'll type in the exact citation, 4.8, and then I click add source, and now it's on my sheet. So you don't have to go through the library, but you can do that. And of course, it's worth keeping in mind that you control the way the sources appear on your sheet. So you can use the file menu, the format menu to change the sheet language. But then when you're in the library view, you can also play with it. Again, because it's a web page, every sheet on Sefaria could potentially be in either or both languages. So the Aleph A button, just the way it controls the text, will also control the language and the layout. Yes.
Sarah, you have some Gemara sources on that previous sheet. One had vowels and one didn't.
We are adding vocalization in concert with the Daf Yomi cycle, so we haven't gotten to Rosh Hashanah yet.
So when you do get there, will our existing sheets auto-populate, or do we need to recreate them?
That is a good question. I don't think you need to recreate them. You may need to re-add the source.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Also, in the editing, is there an undo command?
There is not yet an undo command.
Okay.
And also questions about choices of font. Not really a lot of questions about choices of font. You should think of this more as a tool for creating a website. So when you create a website, you don't really want a lot of different fonts or sizes, because basically the idea of Sefaria is that if you're sharing it digitally, the person who's looking at it is going to control their experience of looking at it. You're not controlling that for them. You're just controlling the content for them.
Yeah, so let's say you type something out and you decided you don't want it, you would have to manually delete it.
There's also a remove button. If you hover over any source that you have on your sheet, there's a minus button that you get, so you can delete it that way.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, and then if you want to print the sheet, you can use the file menu to export it to Google Docs. That's a good option for printing. You can print directly from Sefaria, but it's not optimized as a print product. Again, we're much more interested in the kind of sheets that you can create when you add in all different kinds of resources and share them digitally. So music and audio and video, all those kinds of things that can images, all those kinds of things that you can put onto a web page. Any final questions before we end?
I thank you massively, Sarah, for yet another fabulous session. It really been helpful in creating source sheets. May I ask if anybody on the call has any ideas for anything further they would like of Sefaria? By all means, just drop me a note to let me know, or alternatively direct to Sarah. And if there's anything further we can arrange for you, we're most happy to. Sarah, yet again, Yishar Koach, massively appreciated.
Thank you. I hope you'll all be in touch if you have any other questions. I hope you'll eventually get to the point where you want to share those resources on Sefaria, at least with your friends and family, and maybe also with the whole Sefaria community. And I will wish you a Shana Tova and hope to see you all before too long. And the recording will be sent out.
Shana Tova, thank you very much.
Shana Tova, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good Kabanshliya.
Thank you.
So is the recording going to be sent out to everybody who signed up?
Sarah, if you send it to me, we'll post it on the Ney Israel YouTube site, and we'll all have access to it.
Wonderful. Shana Tova.